From CBS3 Duluth, this is the CBS3 News at 6.
Good evening, I'm Kristen Bakke.
And I'm Anthony Matt. Thanks for joining us. We're going to bring you to St. Paul in just a moment, where Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is expected to make some big announcements, including an extension to the peacetime emergency. We'll listen in live to the governor in just a few moments.
But first, some big news out of Wisconsin. Within the last hour, we learned the state Supreme Court struck down the state's safer-at-home order in its entirety. They now say all future orders must go through the legislature. Republican lawmakers brought the case, trying to block the order issued last month by Governor Tony Evers' top health secretary, Andrea Palm. The Republican-controlled court ruled along party lines to block the order. The Chief Justice says Palm overstepped her authority when issuing the order. The court decided the stay-home order will stay in place for 6 days, giving time for state lawmakers to work with the Department of Health Services to decide what comes next. The safer-at-home order was set to expire on May 26th. It could now be lifted sooner. Back in Minnesota, the state's peacetime emergency was set to expire today. The order gives the governor power to issue executive orders, stay-at-home orders, and close businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. It would also allow him to keep schools closed.
Yeah, this is not to be confused with the stay-at-home order. That is currently set to expire on May 18th. In late April, though, Walz relaxed the rules for businesses slightly, allowing up to 20,000 companies to resume operations, impacting about 80,000 to 100,000 workers. Curbside pickup for retail stores was also allowed as long as certain guidelines were followed.
We are going to listen in to the governor in just a moment here. Actually,
Minneapolis. As our state starts our 163rd year, we face a challenge we've never seen before: COVID-19 and a global pandemic. COVID-19 has upended life as we know it. The virus has claimed the lives of more than 600 Minnesotans. Grandparents, parents, daughters and sons, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. We honor their memories and will never forget them. We'll also never forget the countless heroes who've answered the call during this crisis. On behalf of all Minnesotans, thank you to the healthcare workers and first responders who continue to put their lives on the line every day to protect us. From hospitals to care facilities, these Minnesotans are putting themselves in harm's way to keep others safe. We must do everything we can to support and protect them. Thank you to all the other workers: the grocer, the farmer, the meat processor, the teacher, the child care provider, the sanitation worker, and so many more who may have been overlooked before, but now we find ourselves leaning on them during tough times. And the times are tough, Minnesota. Many of you are out of work. Businesses are shuttered. Families are struggling to pay rent. People are worried about making ends meet. The companionships we'd normally lean on to get through a difficult time, that hug from a grandparent, coffee with a friend, or that laugh with a coworker, are forced out of our reach. As I said during my State of the State address last month, COVID-19 exceeds the reality of Minnesota's harshest winters. Seeing what was coming, we told you we weren't ready. We asked you to slow the spread of the virus by staying home. We told you we needed time to prepare for this fight. We have used that time wisely. We have built out hospital capacity so that we can ensure as many Minnesotans as possible receive the care they need when they need it. We have increased the number of ventilators and ICU beds for when people fall really ill. We've sourced critical care and personal protective equipment for the selfless doctors, nurses, first responders, and so many others on the front line of this fight. And we've launched an aggressive testing strategy with Mayo Clinic, the University of Minnesota, and our hospitals to test every symptomatic Minnesotan. Today we hit our all-time record with over 6,700 Minnesotans tested. All of this work was done in partnership with our cutting-edge health sector, innovative business community, world-class universities, and everyday Minnesotans just like you from across the state. We know there's no stopping the storm of COVID-19 from hitting Minnesota, but we've prepared for it. We've successfully pushed out and reduced the peak of this virus. We've made great progress to ensure we can treat Minnesotans who fall ill. Thank you for your sacrifices. You've saved the lives of thousands of Minnesotans. At this point in time, Minnesota is staying steady in hospitalizations. With the capacity that we've built while you stayed home, we can chart a new way forward. We believe that we should be able to handle an increase in cases as more people move out and about. We can use what we've learned about the virus and how it spreads to inform our next steps. We can take a measured Minnesota approach that protects public health and improves economic stability. This means a cautious strategic steps forward. and it means clear measures for determining if and when we need to pull back. We're not flipping a switch and everything's going back to normal at once. We're slowly moving the dial and introducing more interaction between people over time. As we consider what can safely resume or reopen, we must take into account three critical factors. First, how close are you to another person in a given setting or activity? Second, how long are you in that close proximity to another person? Third, how predictable that setting is. For an example, you're walking past people in a hardware store wearing a mask. That's less risky and more predictable than setting for a meal in a crowded restaurant. That's the lens we're using when we consider how we can safely turn the dial. And starting on May 18th, we're turning the workplace dial. Non-critical businesses like retail stores and Main Street businesses can reopen if they have a safety plan and can operate at no more than 50% capacity. Small businesses are critical to the social and economic fabrics of our communities all across Minnesota. I recognize how hard this pandemic has fallen on them, and I hope this action charts a safe and prosperous path forward. We can make this turn of the dial and keep people safe if we can trust each other to continue to be cautious. We need business owners to follow the new guidance to protect workers and customers, and we encourage customers to wear masks, socially distance, and don't congregate for long periods of time in stores. As we look forward, I've directed my cabinet to continue the extensive discussions they're already having with health experts and thousands of businesses on future openings. I'm directing them to assemble similar guidance on how to safely reopen bars, restaurants, barbershops, and salons beginning on June 1st. This will coincide with a significant increase in testing, tracing, and isolating the virus in the state. We're also turning the social dial. I know this has been incredibly hard. Weddings, funerals, graduations have been postponed. The letters I've received from young children offering to cancel their birthday parties for others breaks my heart. Our social and mental well-being is an important factor as we chart our path forward. When the stay-at-home order ends on May 18th, we're replacing it with a new order that brings back more of the social interactions that are so important in life, but still ask Minnesotans to stay safe. Stay Safe Minnesota will still ask people, stay close to home, limit travel to what's essential, but we can now gather with friends and family of groups of less than 10. This CDC guidance in all cases is asking Minnesotans not to gather in large groups. All gatherings, whether a backyard barbecue or a religious meeting at a church, synagogue, or mosque, are limited to 10 and require that social distancing. Don't get me wrong. We believe that the safest place we can be is at home, but we know we can't continue like this forever. So we're making turns on both the business and social dials in order to slowly and safely reopen our society. This situation's fluid. There's much we still don't know about this virus, and as I said previously, we must be prepared to dial back if needed. We will continue to follow the guidance of public health experts and make data-driven decisions. We'll monitor the rate of new cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. If there's a sudden rate of increase or a potential spike on the horizon, we'll move the dial back quickly and strategically. Whenever we make any movement to ease restrictions, we must protect the safety of those returning to work. Our state's healthcare workers, emergency responders, and other professionals are doing their jobs under demanding and stressful conditions to provide the services that Minnesotans need. These frontline workers and their patients, co-workers, and family members are at a heightened risk. As even more Minnesotans head back to work in these settings, we must protect their safety and dignity. That's why I signed an executive order today to ensure that all workers can raise concerns regarding the safety of their work environments without fear of discrimination or retaliation. As there is more interaction between people, we must protect those in our community that are the most vulnerable to the virus. That's also why I signed another executive order today to strongly encourage Minnesotans at the greatest risk of serious illness to continue sheltering at home. We know the virus rides hardest on people who already have health challenges. People who have lung and heart disease, asthma, diabetes, or weakened immune systems are more likely to end up in the hospital if they get COVID-19. We also know this virus is especially lethal for our elderly. It's already stolen the lives of so many of the greatest generation. We must do everything in our power to protect our older Minnesotans. Last week, we announced a 5-point battle plan to protect our senior Minnesotans and keep this virus at bay in thousands of our long-term care facility. And now we're asking people who have underlying conditions and who are older than 65, take extra precautions. We're not requiring it, but it's strongly encouraged that if you're able to stay home, continue to do so. And for those of you who were asking to continue to self-isolate, we are committed to keeping you connected to the services, food, support, and companionship that you will need to stay well. We all have seniors or friends with health challenges in our lives. Take the time to reach out to them. A phone call, a card in the mail, or a quick text can make all the difference. We also know this virus feeds on existing inequalities. This public health crisis is exacerbating the racial, economic, and geographic inequities that have always been there. According to the data, disproportionate number of African Americans are testing positive for COVID-19. Since this pandemic struck, a third of the Native American workforce is newly unemployed. We must not look away from this reality, and we must plan for and lift up every Minnesotan in our response to COVID-19. In this state, we leave no one behind. Whether our workers, our elderly, our medically vulnerable, or our communities of color and indigenous communities, we will look out for you. Let me be clear, no life is disposable in Minnesota. Minnesotans, I've told you what we're doing on our part. Now we need you to do yours. It has never been more important for you to look out for your neighbor. We are still in the heart of this pandemic, and this can go in a bad direction very quickly. We must keep this virus at a simmer and not a boil. As a former teacher, I know a little about report cards, and a little over a month ago, our state received an A in social distancing. Last week, the state was given a D. It's not acceptable. Minnesotans, we pride ourselves in our exceptionalism. We love to be the best at things, and one of those things that we are the best at is looking out for our neighbors. We can, must, and will do better. I asked you to stay home. You did, and in doing so, you saved lives. Now I'm asking you to stay safe. We're counting on Minnesotans to take personal responsibility for their own health and the health of their community. Stay safe means work from home if you can. Wear masks when you go out to shop. Stay close to home if you have to travel, and gather only in groups of 10 or less, and keep 6 feet apart from each of you. Get tested, which is available everywhere if you have symptoms. And of course, stay home and seek care if you're sick. I'm asking you to continue to take these precautions to protect your own health and the health of the people around you. It's never been more clear how connected we are and how our individual decisions impact the lives of others. We've turned the dial on businesses. We've turned the dial on social life. We're doing that because we're trusting people to stay safe by making smart choices. However, we know that this will mean more people will get sick and some will end up in the hospital. We've prepared for that inevitability. We've increased ICU beds and ventilators for those who get really sick. We have masks, gowns, and gloves for the healthcare workers who will have to take care of them. We have strategies for protecting those most vulnerable to COVID, those in nursing homes, and those experiencing homelessness. And we have plans for eliminating hotspot when the virus impacts workers in places like food processing plants. But we've got work to do, work that we all must do. We must continue to slow the spread of the virus. We will test people and find out where the virus is spreading. When people learn they have the virus, they have to stay home so they don't spread it. We have to ease back into doing business, but not the way we used to. Employers have to implement new protections for employees and customers. We all have to remain cautious for our own health and the health of our neighbors. So yes, the stay-at-home order is expiring and the dials are turning, but that doesn't mean we're carefree and can return to the way things were. It means we have to stay safe, take care for our own health, and care for your neighbor. Many of you have selflessly chosen to stay home and forego celebrating important milestones, are taking long-planned trips in order to slow the spread of the virus. Others have changed how you worship, work, study, exercise, and connect with friends and family. And many more of you have lost your jobs, closed doors on precious businesses, and experienced real financial hardship as the virus has limited where we can gather and how we do business. I am grateful for those sacrifices, and I am deeply sorry for all the disruption and hardship the response to the pandemic has required. At each turn, we've tried to ease the economic impact of the virus with unemployment payment, business loans, and income and food supports. We know that in many cases, it wasn't enough. We're grateful to the generosity of foundations and individuals who are helping families fill in the gaps of rent, food, and child care costs. I am proud of how Minnesotans have stepped up for each other, both by staying home and reaching out to those in need. Whether it's by sewing and donating face masks, or contributing food to a food bank, or practicing social distancing, We need all of you to continue to put the care and safety of others at the front of your mind. Don't charge forward as everything is normal. Unfortunately, we aren't through the winter yet. These last several weeks have been difficult, and it's going to get more challenging. But we'll get through this. We're resilient people with deep reserves of courage, optimism, and grit. I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. No matter how daunting the challenge is, no matter how dark the times, Minnesotans always risen up by coming together as one Minnesota. It was our blood that saved the Union at Gettysburg, and it was the iron that forged the tanks that liberated Europe. Our farmers sparked that green revolution that fed and still feeds the world, and our imagination transformed medicine and is doing that today. Minnesotans, we're going to get through this, just as we have every other challenge, by doing it together. Thank you, good evening, and stay safe, Minnesota.
That was Minnesota Governor Tim Walz updating the status of the state's fight against COVID-19. The big takeaway there, the stay-at-home order will be ending on May 18th, and he is allowing all retail and Main Street businesses to reopen, provided they have a safety plan in place. Groups of 10 or more will also be able to gather once again.
There are also plans in place to begin talking about opening bars and restaurants with new guidelines as early as June 1st. The governor said they are able to make these adjustments because they have increased hospital capacity to be able to handle a surge in COVID-19 patients and greatly increase the testing capacity. And today they tested more than 6,000 people. He says they have prepared for and pushed out the peak of this virus, and he believes hospital systems are prepared to handle more and more patients as people start to get out and about heading into the summer months.
Even though Governor Walz made these big announcements today, he said if the state starts to see a surge in cases, he will begin dialing it back again should it be necessary.
And of course, those are just some of the big takeaways. We'll have much more on this tonight on the CBS3 News at 10, and we'll be providing updates all night on our website and social media platforms. Dave is in with your weather right after the break.
Watch Anthony Matt weekdays at 6 and 10 p.m. on live local CBS3 Duluth.
I'm Dr. Amy Van Straten with St. Luke's Obstetrics and Gynecology Associates. I have 2 daughters. They'll ask me when I get home from work, did I help any babies come out and what are their names? And then they will like to evaluate if that was a good name or not. With robotic technology, it's very rewarding to be able to do difficult surgeries through small incisions and see patients recover so quickly. When a patient comes to St. Luke's, I feel like they really get personalized care, and it's really rewarding to see patients absolutely loving their care.
I'm Dr. Carolyn Phelps, licensed psychologist. In the wake of this pandemic, many of us are feeling overchallenged and overwhelmed. If you or someone you care about is struggling with anxiety, depression, or any other mental health problem, please know this: getting help matters. Mental health care is essential care, and it's still available. Simply contact a local mental health care provider yourself or ask someone you trust whom they'd recommend. Now more than ever, reach out for help.
I will always be ready
for every storm
and disaster that threatens my community.
I will always be there to protect my neighbors
and my country.
We are the Army National Guard.
Visit nationalguard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Garden mats eliminate 90% of the time spent working in the garden and increase a garden's productivity by 10 to 20%. Garden mats let air and water through, but block sunlight. The pre-measured holes make planting a breeze. We help people grow 100% organic vegetables, weed-free. Garden mats give us our summers back to do the things we love. Go to gardenmats.com.
Do you need help with debt relief? Call Yvonne Mashad Novak Law to get expert legal advice today. Call 218-720-2888.
Catch Eye on Parenting every Thursday at 6 with me, Leanne Valdez, on CBS3.
Mariah Haberman here from Discover Wisconsin. Join me and the rest of the DW crew every week on this station for all things Wisconsin. Continue the adventure on social media and discoverwisconsin.com for behind-the-scenes content and great Wisconsin giveaways, including a chance to win a free vacation. This week's featured prize package could take you to the Hayward Lakes area. Just visit discoverwisconsin.com for details.
We started with 20 of the best that have ever played this game.
Tonight, only 5 castaways remain.
Watch me rain. I'll be the only survivor.
Go! And 1 returns from the edge.
This is it, do or die.
I want
a battle at the end.
I'm either going to win this game or I'm going to lose trying.
It's a whole night of Survivor. The season finale begins tonight, 8/7 Central on CBS.
Watch Anthony Matt weekdays at 6 and 10 p.m. on live local CBS3 Duluth. CBS3 weather is brought to you by LifeView Glaucoma Center. Now, the CBS3 Duluth WeatherMax forecast with meteorologist Dave Anderson.
Temperatures this morning did get as cool as 21 in places like Ely and Silver Bay, but they were also as warm as 32 towards Moose Lake, upper 20s around Hayward. That's a sign that the increasing cloud cover brought temperatures up, and they'll continue to go up into the 60s for high temps tomorrow, and 70s next week are very possible beginning as soon as Monday. Rain chance tonight, it is coming around, and we'll talk about it after this look at the current conditions at Duluth International, where the clouds have built in. Current temp is 48 degrees, easterly, southeasterly winds running 11 miles per hour, and the relative humidity is up to 50%. So we didn't have to deal with as big an elevated fire risk today as we have the past week or so. Keep our fingers crossed tonight's rain chance pays off, and so we can forget about the rain or the fire problem, at least for a little while. Now, current temperatures and conditions around our region show a cloudier sky, conquering just about everybody except for Grand Marais. Current temperatures, 50s inland, 40s by the lake. That's still a little bit cooler than normal. But again, the normal of 62 will be achieved by a lot of towns tomorrow. So the cold snap will be fading away. Rain tonight is possible around our region, a 40 to 60% chance in Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota as well, from a trough of lower pressure that's approaching from the west. We've had the clouds increase. A couple of sprinkles have popped up here and there, but now slightly more substantial rain is entering western Minnesota, and we could use that around the rest of the region to fight off that fire danger, of course. And by the time this system leaves us early Friday morning, I think a lot of towns are going to run about a quarter inch to a half inch or so. Silver Bay might have the best chance of getting the half inch, and some parts of Wisconsin may undercut the quarter a little bit, like Mellon and Phillips, but any little bit of rain we get from this system could be put to good use. We'll get a break from the rain on Friday, and then the next rain chance hits on Saturday, followed by more sunshine on Sunday. A bit of a yo-yo roller coaster forecast coming up. And here's what the forecast tonight in Minnesota says. For low temperatures, continuing the warming trend, inland 40 to 45, lakeside in the 30s. 60% rain chance for people in Minnesota. It falls to a 40% chance overnight for Wisconsin and Michigan, and low temps there fall to the range of 42 to 45. For tomorrow, Wisconsin, Michigan, high temps will run from 63 towards Wakefield, Bessemer, Ironwood, to 67 around Cable and Hayward. 40% rain chance for that part of our world. It's a 60% chance for more rain around the area Thursday for Minnesotans, with highs in the 50s by the lake and 60s inland. The warming trend will continue. Here's our 7-day forecast, and we'll go from the 60s Thursday towards Sunday into 70 on Monday, 73 Tuesday, to 77 degrees on Wednesday, the warmest day of 2020. Think of it that way. Almost halfway done with the year, and we're finally getting towards upper 70s. Hopefully a sign that that long winter is gone and our short spring is here, and summer not too far away.
Living in unprecedented times, the NAHL is looking to create some unprecedented solutions for the future of junior hockey. The league season was forced to end early due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So in order to ensure long-term plans for the league, they created the first ever supplemental draft, in addition to their entry draft, which is scheduled for this July. And a couple Northland players benefited from the new draft. Ben Trombley, the former Greenway standout, was selected in the first round, 21st overall by the Bismarck Bobcats. He's a St. Cloud State commit with a bright-looking future. The 5'6", 150-pound forward helped lead the Raiders to a Class A state championship game just a year ago. In the second round, former Duluth East Greyhound Hunter Payne was selected 38th overall by Corpus Christi. The 5'10" defenseman spent last season in the USHL, playing with the Des Moines Buccaneers, where he played with a pair of other Greyhounds, Logan Anderson and Garrett Worth. Payne is currently committed to the Air Force Academy. And the Minnesota Wilderness came away with 3 picks of their own. In the first round, they took Evan Bushy out of Thief River Falls, then selected Carter Primo, Self, and Mitchell Joss in the third round. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says the league must face some hard truths if play were to continue during the coronavirus pandemic. According to a report from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Silver told participants in an owners conference call Tuesday that league employees should get used to a bubble or campus environment if and when the NBA resumes their season. He also warned that players and team officials should expect games to still be played despite a positive COVID-19 test. Now, while discussions continue, there's no concrete plan to restart league play. The NBA suspended the regular season back in March after several players tested positive for the virus. And the NFL is extending its virtual off-season workouts for 2 additional weeks as the league works to find a path through these extraordinary times. It has once again modified its schedule. Teams will now be allowed to continue off-season workout programs with players through May 29th, according to ESPN. Players can continue to interact with coaches virtually as they try to stay in shape leading up to training camps. The virtual off-season was originally going to close Friday, May 15th. Football fans in Las Vegas are showing their support for the city's newest teams. The Las Vegas Raiders are scheduled to begin playing in Allegiant Stadium this season, but getting a ticket for a home game may be pretty hard. According to The Athletic, the Raiders have already sold out every single home game this season. If you look at their schedule, you'll see a big reason why. The Raiders will host the Saints and Drew Brees, the Buccaneers with Tom Brady, and the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, all in prime time this year. Not a bad deal for relocating a team with a brand new $1.9 billion stadium. That's going to do it for sports for now. We'll have more back here at 10. Kristen and Tony, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Kelly. Well, tonight on the CBS3 News at 10, we're digging into the big announcement from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who said the state's stay-at-home order will be ending on May 18th.
He also added retail and Main Street businesses will be allowed to reopen provided they have a safety plan in place. Groups of 10 or more will be able to gather again as well.
There are also plans in place to begin talking about opening bars and restaurants with new guidelines as early as June 1st. The governor said they are able to make these adjustments because they have increased hospital capacity to be able to handle a surge in COVID-19 patients and greatly increase the testing capacity. And today, they tested more than 6,000 people. He says they have prepared for and pushed out the peak of this virus. We'll have much more on this on the CBS3 News tonight at 10.
All right, and Dave's going to give us a final look at the weather before 10. Hey, Dave.
Our 7-day forecast holds a warm-up. It began this morning in a fashion, but after the rain tomorrow, it should really start to perk up. So tonight and tomorrow, 40 to 60% chance for much needed rain in our region. Then the 60s arrive, and the 60s stay with us through Sunday, and they could become the 70s by Monday. Hit 77 degrees for the Twin Ports by Wednesday, maybe 80 possible inland.
Woo, that sounds good to me.
Does.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you at 10.